When you run a live stream show, you want to make sure that you find the right guests for your stream. Now, I'm not talking about finding guests overall. We talked about that on episode 15 at launcher.live/EP15. You know, it's important though to find the right guest because, well, you want to make sure that it aligns with what your show is about and it helps keep people interested in your stream. So on this episode, Jim and I are going to sit down with Marco Novo to help you find the right guests for your live stream. So Jim, it's fantastic seeing you for episode 41 of the Launch Your Live podcast and obviously this interview series. So I'm going to go and bring on our guest. We have Marco Novo, and I'm looking forward to learning from him. And the reason, this is important also, by the way, is because, well, he speaks multiple languages. I mean, I don't think English is his first language, right?
That's correct.
So we're going to bring Marco on, and we're going to help you find the right guest for your live stream. So Marco, thanks a lot for joining us for episode 41 of the Launch Your Live podcast. It's a pleasure having you on.
My pleasure. And it's not my native language, English, it's Portuguese. And due to the fact that it's very close to me, I also speak, I think very well, Spanish.
Muy bueno. so
it's a pleasure
Marco,
to be here.
And I think too, right? You actually are in Portugal, so today is an international show, so very exciting to have you. And we were talking before coming on camera too. There's even when you have these foreign languages like Portuguese or Spanish, the dialect is different in different countries. So we were talking about Brazilian Portuguese is much different than the Portuguese spoken in Portugal where you live. So I think that's fascinating. We're going to talk more about languages and multicultural in a future episode with Marco. But today we're going to focus on finding the right guest. And Marco's definitely well qualified to be speaking on this topic. So Marco, how did you get started in live streaming? I mean, what is your story? Because, you got that, for those that are watching, you can see it, but those of you listening, he's got this beautiful StreamYard pillow in the background.
Absolutely. And the mug also. Well, it's a funny story. And I like to talk about random situations. We heard so many times, it's very important to be intentional, to write down your future, your path. And then I talk by experience. Most of the things that put me on nice tracks happened by random situations. So I was looking, I was scrolling on my Facebook feed, and a friend of mine was posted something. Well, I'm live, I'm Blab. Look, come and join me. And then I went there. It was September 2015. I went there, and oh my God, this is fun. And he asked me, "Do you want to join?" And I said, "Yes, I want." And by the way, we were a team of 2 Portuguese and 2 Brazilians. So it was fun, the thing, and I completely felt in love with the thrill, with the platform, with the fun, with the joy. And also I felt that live stream with a guest or with other people is more fun and more insightful to all of the people, because we should understand that as a host, we are also learning when we have a guest. Otherwise, you are wasting your time also. So that's how I felt in this live stream world, and it was amazing. It was an addiction. I like to say it was love at first live.
I love that, actually. Love at first live. I'm actually going to have to make a note of this. That's fantastic. So background wise, I mean, so like, have you so for example, we talk with guests, like, for example, I know in episode 40, we had Matt Schick on, and we talked with him about, live streaming, and he has background in doing a lot of productions. For example, he was on the Carbonaro Effect, running production there. I know we've had Kevin Colby on, Jem, where we've talked with him, and he was a former radio DJ who moved into live streaming, which, obviously there's the natural progression there, but do you have any experience like that, or is it kind of like, hey, I fell into it and like I just got really good at it? Because I was talking with Jim beforehand. I was like, what are we going to talk with him about? Because I get the feeling that Marco knows a lot of information when it comes to live streaming. So did you have any prior like technical background that really translated well to live video?
Not at all. And that's I had this experience but it's just on the not professional way, very amateur, on performative arts and a little bit of theater, but not a main thing for me. It was a kind of hobby. And in the technical side, I'm very basic, and there's something that people used to ask me, what should be the right equipment? And I say, to start, and I say, this, enough.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great point though, because here's the thing: a lot of people, they always like people seem to equate buying the best equipment means that you're going to have a really good live stream.
Yeah,
and that's not the case. I mean,
absolutely.
For example, I know when I got started, I used a Blue Yeti, and I put my money into a webcam because, hey, webcams on computers really aren't that great. Even the new Mac M1 models, they didn't change the webcam, but hey, the processors and everything are great, but the webcam's still not there. So a lot of people, they equate for some reason buying expensive equipment and just giving them a great stream. And, really, as you mentioned, I mean, your smartphone, I think that was what you were holding up. That is a fantastic device.
Absolutely.
You can use it from a camera perspective. I mean, yeah, you can't really add a high quality microphone, but you can do things such as adding a lavalier microphone or a Rode Wireless Go to that, and it gives you a very high quality microphone. So I love the fact that like, hey, you know what? You just got started with what you had.
Absolutely.
So that's fantastic.
For me, there's only one thing that it's mandatory, and that for me, it's my number one thing: have an amazing message to share, because everything else will be there in sooner or later. That they will come. But if you are here to talking about nothing important, not bringing something important to your audience, so forget about it. That's my only topic important.
Fantastic. So, okay, so that's how you got started in live streaming. Okay, so love the fact that you're really just you just went all in, which is great, and you kind of figured it out. And that's the thing. A lot of people they always ask, well, what's that secret sauce? What's the magic bullet? Like they ask it for social media. What's the magic bullet for social media? There is none. It's hard work. It's dedication. It's making sure that you serve your audience. It's the same thing for live streaming. You have to have good content. Jim, you and I talk about this all the time, about the importance of content, and having really good information to the point where people want to tune into that show. Okay, so Marco, so we said, hey, this episode is going to be about finding the right guest for your live streams. I know on episode 15, we talked about how to find guests. And here's the thing, it's not hard to find guests. Jim and I talk about this all the time. What's the key thing, Jim, that we just have to have people do? What do they just need to do?
Ask.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So ask, and chances are you will receive. Chances, maybe if you want a big guest, maybe it may take a number of tries, but don't be afraid to ask. Now, in terms of, though, finding the right guest, Marco, why is it important to find the right guest for your show?
Well, I see three main reasons. First of all, well, it's not by order, randomly. One thing is they bring new ideas, new perspective, new knowledge to your audience, which is good also. Okay. The other thing, they bring you knowledge. It's also important to you, because I learn a lot. Some people say you have a kind of a master degree just because you bring so good guests to your show. And also, it is very important to give you authority. I used to talk about authority transmission, because if you have important people, well-known people, recognized people on your show, they will give you some of their authority also. And it could, I can add an extra advantage, which is audience, because some of them will bring their audience to you. So it's good because you will get known by other people that usually couldn't see you. So it's also good, of course, to you.
Yeah, that's really, those are some great points, and I think we don't always think about that fact, right? And we've talked about that in other episodes as well. As you know, if you've got a good guest and they bring their audience, that's like the, in a sense, the perfect storm, because a lot of times that's really how you're going to grow, is by bringing other people in, as opposed to just trying to grow it yourself. Which really kind of leads to the next question. Does it seem like there are times when the type of guest doesn't matter?
Well, for me, it always matter. It's very important. It's very important, and I think by setting this pre-stage, it's kind of the answer you need to, which is important to search for on a guest. Okay, and I will add some points, but the main important is he or she an authority in his field? Because one thing is when you know a lot about a topic, yeah, it's good to bring someone who. But if you want to get some authority from your guest and audience, it's not enough that he knows or she knows a lot of the topic. It's also important that he or she is recognized as someone with authority. Oh, look, he's bringing this or that. They are good. Okay, it's good. Okay, because sometimes they are, and by these days, this social media thing, it's, if nobody knows you, you're a nobody. It's kind of the thing. Okay, and that is important. It is also important, and I used to talk about this. See your way to success like crossing a river, which you will find big rocks and not so big rocks. And sometimes the big rocks are a little bit away, far from you. But you have in the middle small rocks, which are good guests that you can find, that they are not the big rock, if you know what I mean. But in the betweens, you have people who are not the top of the field, but they are well known, they are recognized, and they can lead you to the next stone, the bigger one. So it's also important. Something I like to advise people: look for a guest which can connect you to another good guest or a bigger one, because it's important. We should be intentional, we should be good girls and good boys, but we should also be intentional and not just bring someone because by the sake of bringing someone, because, for instance, you want to bring Seth Godin to your show. Look for people who already had Seth Godin in their show, so you can be connected to them, and then one day, for instance, if that people had a good time with you, they can lead you to Seth Godin.
That's a great example. And I think the other thing you hit on that really is key is, right, it's like you have to be careful, like in the aspect, especially as your show becomes more mature, of like, oh, well, I'm going to bring this person on because maybe they're, a friend or something else, because you're like, oh, well, I want to give them a chance. Not to say that you shouldn't, but the danger there is like people start to like, well, why did you bring this person on? And are they really going to add value to your audience? And so I think that's where sometimes, or I'm sure you guys both sometimes get the, hey, you should, we want to connect with you because we'd like to put our person on your show. But what they talk about has nothing whatsoever to do with the type of content you want. So I think that's, from my perspective, those are a couple of, key points you hit on. And I love your analogy of crossing the river. That's a. I mean, Marco, you sound like you're a great storyteller. We'll have to dig into that sometime.
maybe. Well, but it's very important because you set a level, So, and one thing it's important for you who are watching us, before asking someone to be your guest, watch them in the stage, if you know what I mean, because it's a nice way for you to see other things which are important. How that people is in front of a camera. Is he nice? Is it fun? Because live streaming is also about entertaining and engaging. So if the people, okay, he is an authority. Yes, he is. He knows a lot about the topic. Yes, he does. He has a nice audience. He has. Okay, but again, and I can talk about the audience, because it's not enough to have a huge audience. It's important to have an engaged audience. Okay, but because it doesn't matter if he has 1 million people following in and nobody's interacting, because it doesn't bring anything to you.
Right.
Okay, so this situation, it's important. But the fact is, okay, you bring someone who is authority, is good and everything, but okay, he's on the interview, and so you think it is important to have a good following on Instagram? Yes, it is. And what do you think about 2021, the trends to social media? Just do it. It's important to, okay, you can bring, if the tone of your show is like this, and what your audience expectations are, someone just to share and nothing else, it's okay. But if you want to make an entertaining show, a fun show, which people at the end they said, "Oh my God, it was so fun! It was it was well spent time." Okay, it's important to see how does it act in other shows. You have LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, YouTube Live. So go there and see people being interviewed, and look how they are doing so. If they fit your tone, ask them. It's for me, it's so obvious. And other thing, which is important, and sometimes we forget this. Sometimes guests neglect important things. For instance, they go to a noisy space with people on the background saying, "Hello, how are you? Oh, yes," and the internet sucks. Also, it is important when you bring a guest and you're not sure about it, give him or her some guidelines. Look, pay attention to your background, the noise, the internet connection, using earphones and everything, because sometimes, because we are in it, we take this for granted, and it's not to our guest. So it's also important. And again, it could be also a factor for you to see if it's a good guest or not. If he has a bad microphone, a bad camera, an awful image, maybe it's not the right time for you to ask him or her. Wait, because it's another important thing when you're and people start being more demanding about video quality, image quality, and everything. So if he or she has not that level, maybe it's not the right time. Wait a little bit.
I think that's a really great point you bring up, because sometimes I even feel like if I invite someone to be a guest on my show, and if they've ever looked at whether it's Tim and Jim show or Social Chatter, we are always in a studio, so don't be coming live from your car to be on my show, because you're showing you're not only is it disrespectful in a sense to us as hosts, but also to the audience. Like, you couldn't take the time to be professional, because these are professional shows. So I think that's a great point, and it's almost like, look, if you're in a situation where you can't be where you are, then let's reschedule for another time.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's, and I think that goes back, to your point of kind of see what they do and see if it fits your vibe.
Absolutely. Yeah, because sometimes we see they on a mobile phone in portrait mode and shaking the phone every time. It doesn't. I think it's not because they are your guest. They should. It's not their playground. It's yours. Okay, so
Right.
be strict with that. It's very important for me.
And that's a really good point, you make there. I mean, a couple of things. So, for example, if I'm going to be mobile, there are lots of ways that I can fix, for example, a jittery camera. And it's very simple. It's having, for example, I have a mount that I use, and all I do is just put my phone on a tripod. And so I'm not sitting there, I'm not holding it out with my hand, I'm not holding it out with a selfie stick. Because, for example, if you put your phone on a selfie stick and you're holding it out, it's going to be potentially going up and down and moving. If you don't have a tripod, for example, or even just something to stabilize your phone, it's going to have some shake to it. And for some people, they don't like, some people have a hard time with that kind of like movement. Some
Absolutely.
people, they're like, hey, it makes me dizzy, for example.
Yeah.
If you're talking to somebody on a FaceTime call and you're walking around with the phone, they're like, hey, just sit down and have a conversation. So it's not about adding all that motion, it's removing the motion to make it a viewing experience. Because here's the thing, if your guest is moving around, it's going to be distracting, or if you're moving around or your guest, it's going to be distracting
It's a
for
noise.
your viewers. It's all
Absolutely.
about your viewers.
Absolutely.
So love that point, there. And, there's lots of equipment that people can get for this, to fix it. But Jem, do you want to take the next question for Marco?
Yeah. Can you share 3 ways to find the right guest for your live stream?
Well, first, look for the experts you like to follow, yes, and then look if live shows they are doing and which people they are bringing to their shows. It's a good option. You can also follow hashtags. Hashtag live stream, for instance, and look for the people who are on your field doing live shows, and look again if they fit to your tone, and also your peers or peers, your peers, because they I talk by myself because I see lots of people there. For instance, I met Jim interviewing Jerry Habyuk, and then that's it. Because one good way for you to get a yes from a guest is if they are being guests in something, because they already said I'm available. Okay, it's not just because you will see if they are the tone they how they do things, if they have the proper equipment, the proper internet, everything. If you are seeing them being a guest, that means that it's a label. I'm available to be a guest. Okay. Other good thing for you to find is look for people who are launching books, courses, and everything, because they want spotlights. So it's for who are, and this is good. One of the good things that you can get from inviting people who are launching courses, books, and events, for instance, maybe, and it's a secret, they can give you something for you. And yeah, for instance, I got 3 entrants. Well, now I can't, but when we had live in-person events, I got 3 entrants because I invited people who were organizing events, and I said, oh, do you want to talk about your event on my show? Yes, of course, because I will promote it. And it's a good way for you to find people to be on your show, because those kinds of people, it's rare to say no to you.
Great points.
No, those are really great points. So, as far as finding a guest, by the way, how do you know that you have the right guest for your show? I mean, it's one thing to, find people and, okay, so people like to launch books and they might launch a book and then there might not be another one for a while. So, you can't always go back to that well, but how do you know you have the right guest for your show?
Well, we like to say something here in Portugal, which is funny. You just know if that the melon is good once you open the melon. And sometimes it's the point. Usually, my guests, I know them before, even before I ask them to be on my show. Before I spot them. Watching other shows, for instance, some of them I watch them in live events, in offline events, and this might be a good. But usually it's different. I can't talk. For instance, a guest I had a few weeks ago. I was a little bit afraid because he's Russian. And usually we have this idea that Russian are very strict people, just like this, and he was so fun, and a good thing for you to put. Okay, after this things you should, this criteria you should look at your guest. Another good thing that you should do, and it's for me, it works really well. It's ask him to be before the show 10 to 15 minutes to make a warm-up. Okay, again, your show, your rules. Starting with a joke, talking about personal life without going in the intimate field, of course. It's a good way to set a mood to the show. It's also good to stay. Okay, now we are because I had guests, which was the first time I talked to them was when I had them on the show. So it's good to have this warm-up conversation. And for instance, it's also important when they are newbies on live streaming. I had a girl, which was the first time she made a live show, was with me a few weeks ago, and she was afraid. Also, it is important. Something. Getting back to the start of the conversation, and this for me is truly deeply important. Don't do a show with a guest if it's the first show you're doing. Okay, because most of the times, and I talk by my experience, maybe you have the same. Most of the guests are not as experienced in this like you are. So, if you're nervous, if you're not sure, if you don't trust in yourself, okay, now I have to hit this button, and I can hit the button and still smiling and interacting with you and getting to the audience and everything. If you are here, oh my God, where should I? Oh, the button, where is it? He's moving, I can hit it. This is, again, it's contagious. So your guest, it's scared to death because it's the first time in front of a camera. I don't like that tiny thing looking at me. And if you're nervous, this will ruin your show. Okay. And other important thing about guests. And people, and there's something that I like to say to my prospects. It will be hard to be there. Will you treat me well? And I say, look, I have hundreds of guests on my show. Do you think that it is sustainable to treat people bad and having those guests keep coming to my show? It's not. Because if you have the right way to treat your guests, they will notice, okay, and they will say, okay, oh, so how was the show with Marco? Awful. If he invites you, say no. And your audience also will notice, and they say, oh, this guy is stupid, because it's very important. For instance, the 70-30% rule. 70% of the time your guest talking, 30% it's more than enough for you, because the only thing there are two ways for you to write during the show. The one is by letting your guest speak, and the second one, it's by putting smart questions. It's enough for you to shine, okay? But the thing is, you have this obligation to make your guest feel amazingly, not less than that, because if you want to keep going with your show, people should look, because sometimes and how it is, look the shows that I have there recorded, and people look, I want to be your guest. It's also important. I know about your show. It's a good way to open doors when people have your proof that you treat well your guests, and they will have a good time.
Very cool. So Marco, what's the best way for people to our viewers and listeners, because we are doing the interview series today, to connect with you?
Well, you can. It's very easy, because that gave me some work to do that, because I was trying mistake, because to find the same username in the whole platforms. So on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, MFC Novo. It's my user on those platforms, so it's very easy to find me.
Fantastic. This is really good information. I mean, I like the fact that, I like all the tips you shared, just, helping get people comfortable, making sure that, like, if you're just starting out live streaming, don't have a guest on. That makes a lot of sense, actually, because everybody starts, and that's the key thing you have to remember. Everybody starts somewhere. So, and I can't remember where I heard this, but we were talking with people, and they said, don't try to be, for example, if you've got a competitor you're trying to, to basically compete with, and you've never done something and they've done hundreds of episodes, don't expect your streams to be, up here when you start. You have to gradually build, sorry, this is flipped, I guess. You have to build yourself, as you move along, and the key thing is, back to your point about technology, just start using the technology that you've got, and then slowly incorporate different things into your broadcast. It's going to also, I think, help bring on different guests. For example, if you're bringing on just the people that are, like your friends, like, maybe getting started, hey, I need to kind of get over some of the jitters, but then push yourself, strive to bring on other guests, strive to bring on the bigger guest that you may not think that you would get on. I know, Jim, we've had, Addison, Addison Zhang, I think I said that right. She strives to go big, go bold, basically, and go big. And she brings on, for example, smaller guests, and then she's gone for some big ones, and she's gotten them on her Learning Without Walls products. So, definitely push yourself.
Absolutely.
So this has been absolutely fabulous.
Can I give 2 tips? I have 2 tips when people are starting. It's about respect. First one, respect your identity, because one thing we may feel, we could be tempted to okay, I have this guy, I love how Chris does thing, how Jim let me make it like they usually do. And it's a mistake, because if I want to see Chris and Jim, I go watch Chris and Jim, not a copy of Chris and Jim. Mm-hmm. So respect your identity. And the second one, but it's truly deeply important, respect your progress. Because if you are starting, it's silly to ask yourself to be perfect, to ask yourself to make everything good, to be looking at the camera naturally, to make the gestures like you did, like you see people doing. Because I have this last episode to tell about. I started recorded video in 2015 also, and I made it recording to my camera and blah 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 blah. And because most of them are evergreen, I like to reshare them because, okay, today I don't have nothing to talk about. Let me reshare this video. And one day, it was not so far, someone sent me a private message, Marco, are you okay? And I said, yes, I'm okay. I'm very good. Why? Well, I've seen your video and you look sad. You look very quiet. It's not what I'm used to see on the camera. And I said to her, look, because it was recorded some years ago, I had not this confidence in front of a camera. I had no this good feeling. So it's normal. I was progressing, and that's the point. So respect your identity. Don't try to be anybody else, and respect your progress. Things will happen because you're doing, and because you're not being very negligent to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing tips.
These are great tips. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in for episode 41 of the Launch Your Live podcast. Again, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, you're watching the Launch Your Live series, or you're listening to episode 41 on your favorite podcast software, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and more. We discussed how to find the right guests for your live stream with Marco Novo. Remember, if you need help with your live streaming, contact us for a consultation by messaging us on our Facebook page at Launch Your Live. And for more information on this particular episode, head to launcher.live/EP41. We'll see you all on a future episode. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.